everybody, Danny from Own Health. I want to do a video here on exercises to help you to flatten your abs. Before I give you those actual exercises, I want to give you an explanation of the anatomy of your core and some of the muscles that make up your core. So to begin with, the core is made up of two units. There's an outer unit and an inner unit. So the outer unit is essentially a global system of control or stability. It's the one that most of us are familiar with, the one that everybody goes to the gym and tries their best to work out. So to give you a better idea of what muscles this includes, I'm going to show you this diagram real quick. Your outer unit is comprised of the external obliques, rectus abdominis, the internal obliques, and then the quadratus lumborum and erector spinae also play a small role in this. So like I said, this is sort of like the engine in your car. It controls kind of gross movements, assists in forced expiration, and sort of non-specific control of your spine. So generalized movements, like I said. What can happen though is if you ignore the other unit, your inner unit, and you just focus on that engine of your car, you're forgetting about the suspension system and about the bolts that hold everything together. So the exercise that I'm going to give you in a little bit are actually exercises for your inner unit to help you to start to focus on the suspension system, so to speak, that holds your spine together and keeps your spine healthy and assists you in all your movements. So a quick diagram now of the inner unit to show you what it includes. And the inner unit is your diaphragm on the top, the multifidus muscles which run up and down the length of your spine, and then the transverse abdominis, which is a muscle that essentially wraps around, creating hoop tension around your spine. And then on the bottom is the pelvic floor. And so it creates this sort of cylinder, and when you do exercise correctly and when your core's inner unit is functioning correctly, you get what's called intra-abdominal pressure created by this inner unit. And that decompresses your spine and is essential it needs to be activated before you do any movement. So some signs of dysfunction in your core, which for most people it's dysfunction in your inner unit. It's chronic low back pain. So if somebody has chronic low back pain, the first thing to look at is probably going to be the function of the inner unit of their core. Something called visceroptosis, which is essentially if you've seen a pooch belly or a belly overhang, that's somebody's viscera, which contains your organs, not being held in by your transverse abdominis. So when that's present, that might be a sign, most likely, that that person's transverse abdominis and other muscles of their inner unit is not working correctly. Incontinence is one that's common. If the inner unit is not functioning correctly, the pelvic floor typically, women who have had kids experience this. A severe anterior tilt in the pelvis might also be a sign that there's dysfunction in the lower abdominal muscles. So, and that's a part of your inner unit. Some of the dangers of dysfunction, this increases the likelihood of injury, of spinal injury in particular. So if you don't have that control of the local system that's protecting your spine, the sort of bolts and the suspension system of your body, then you're very likely, because these control segmental, different segments of your spine control the stability of those parts. So if that's not stabilized properly, then you are at an increased risk for a spinal injury. Like I mentioned, incontinence, especially for women, if those muscles aren't working correctly, the pooch belly, and chronic low back pain. Those are all dangers of having dysfunctional inner unit. And as I mentioned, most people go to the gym, they're working out the outer unit. They're doing as many crunches as they can do. I see more people nowadays doing more rotational exercises, which is a good thing. So people are a little more mobile in their spine. But again, this is all looking at the outer unit. It's looking at the engine rather than looking at the inner unit or the suspension system. So a lot of people are just working the outer unit, and the result is poor posture, If people are overdoing crunches, you're going to be shortening these muscles here, which is going to pull you into a kyphotic posture, meaning sort of that rounded back posture, which then is going to lead to a forward head posture. So lots of dangers of doing only outer unit exercises and not doing inner unit exercises. So what we're going to do now is put together some exercises to help you work on your inner unit. And I'm going to give you one exercise for your multifidus, which is the muscles that run up and down your spine. It's very simple. It's called the horse stance series. I'll just give you one of the exercises in the series. I'll give you an exercise for your transverse abdominis, and that is the 4-point tummy vacuum, which is going to train your transverse abdominis to work correctly. And then I'm not going to do a demonstration for these other two, but exercise for your pelvic floor would include Kegels and also weight exercises with free weights. Actually, is going to help you to activate it. And then lastly, the diaphragm, muscles of the diaphragm, you can train by doing breathing exercises. So if you feel like you have trouble breathing into your diaphragm, into your abdomen, and you're just kind of a chest breather up here, you might want to get a coach for that, a breathing coach, maybe a singing coach or something like that would be helpful. But without further ado, here are the exercises for training your inner unit. Okay, so the first exercise I'm going to show you is for the multifidus muscles, and this is the horse stance vertical. So there's very little movement in the exercise, so just listen and follow the directions that I give you. It's just going to be lifting my hand maybe a centimeter off the ground on my opposite knee, that high as well. So I'm going to get into the position, and it's going to be knees below my hips and hands below my shoulders, elbows pointing backwards, spine in good alignment. And all I'm going to do is essentially lift this hand up just very little, while at the same time lifting the opposite knee up just a little. So it's just going to barely come up. And I hold that for 5 seconds. So lifting and down. Then I'll do the other side. So it's lift and down. Lift and down. And last one, lift and down. Okay, so the second exercise is the 4-point tummy vacuum. And again, this is to work the transverse abdominis muscles that wrap around your core all the way around. And we're going to do this in that same position as the horse stance vertical exercise. This time we're focused on pulling the abdomen in. So essentially pulling the belly button in towards your spine in the back. We're going to do it in the hands and knees position. So I'm going to get back in that position again. Knees below the hips, hands below the shoulders, elbows slightly bent, elbows pointing backwards, like this. Okay, spine is in good alignment. And all I'm going to do is, you can keep your hand down here, but essentially you're going to take a deep breath in, hold that breath, and draw the belly in, and hold it. We do that for 10 seconds, and after 10, I'm going to let it relax. And then I'll repeat. Breathe in, belly goes down, so breathe into your abdomen. Hold that breath, draw in, and hold that contraction. So I'm keeping this pulled up. And I can breathe normally now, but I've pulled my belly button into my spine for 10 seconds, and then relax and repeat. So repeat that one for about 10 repetitions for 10 seconds. And when you can do that, then there's a progression beyond that. So that is the 4-point tummy vacuum.